Hello guys, I'm joined today with Pim Jansson, the lovely friend of mine on the other side of the planet who's been kind enough to oblige today to come onto my channel and talk about carb addiction. She is specifically a carb addiction coach. So I'm going to be posing towards her some useful questions, which will hopefully provide me with very, very useful answers. How you doing, Pim?
I'm good. I'm looking forward to this. I'm almost like, what's he going to come up with?
It'll be relevant stuff, I assure you. So,
Okay. Yeah, I'll
for a
believe you.
change. Yeah. Okay. All right. So the first question is, what motivated you to become a carb addiction coach?
I've always been a coach in some form, I guess. It started out with me being a coach, like at the gym, doing personal training, that sort of thing, and a diet advisor, always within health and fitness, and always being a sugar addict. So when I finally managed to sort my sugar addiction out and heal from that, I just thought, hey, this is what people are missing. Like the obsessive eating. It's not that people necessarily miss the knowledge of what they should be eating or what they should be doing. The problem is that they don't do it. They don't quit. They just keep doing things that are not good for them. So I felt like what I'm doing now is having a much larger impact on people's lives than just being a trainer, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's all good having the knowledge to, oh, this is the best diet, this is the best training program. Well, how would you apply that? You know, a lot of people lack the accountability, the motivation. So I highly recommend people follow you, see what you do, and buy your coaching services. It is applicable to everyone. I think even people perhaps out there that think they've got it all nailed, chances are you're out there and you've got some unhealthy relationship with food, and I've experienced that firsthand. So it definitely makes sense.
100%.
So my next question is, what are some common signs and symptoms of carb addiction?
It's like any other addiction. God, I forget what this form is called, but I've done videos on it, and it's a form that just asks you questions like, do you hide eating from other people? Do you think about it obsessively? Do you sacrifice like your social life to eat? All of those kind of things. When you do disordered things just so that you can get your sugar fix, then you have a problem. So if you rather eat than socialize with people and go and have fun, for example, there's something there. Is it an addiction? I mean, I think you need to answer yes to at least 4 of these to be classified as having like a light addiction problem. But it's no different from other addictions. If you are obsessively thinking about your next fix or how you're going to get it, or stressing out about not having it. And what I used to do, I used to buy a lot of crap, and I was always out and about doing my classes at different gyms and traveling. So I would buy chocolate on the subway and then eat it, and then it was gone. Went to buy food, obviously got some chocolate. Oh, I'll get a few extra. Ate half of them on the way home, and hiding or trying to get rid of the wrapper before I got home so that my partner wouldn't see how much I was eating. I mean, that's kind of disordered, because I knew that what I was doing, I would be judged for it. So I'm trying to hide it. So I think any behavior that you think is a bit fishy, and I think people know, it's just that we obviously don't want to talk about it. We're trying to kind of downplay it. Some people don't care, they just eat in front of others, whereas others are just like, no, I never eat in front of other people, only when I'm alone. It can take many forms, but yeah, I hope that's a good answer.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Like you said, it can be anything, and anything which you think is a bit fishy it seems to be the most sensible thing to really answer that question with, really.
Yeah, and the diet mentality as well, like, well, if I eat all of this now, I'll just go on a fast after, or I'll just go out for a 2-hour run or whatever to make up for all the chocolate that I ate. I mean, that's also disordered thinking around food, which may or may not be an addiction, but there's something that is not healthy in those kind of thoughts.
Yeah. So when you approach individuals that you're coaching, what are some of the methodologies or strategies you implement? So, of course, you might have presentations, maybe courses, maybe like a consultation, like what I offer. What are some of the things that you apply most? And is there like a list or a flow chart of things which you think are, yeah, we'll do this first and that, or is it just as you see fit?
No, there are certain elements that I want to cover with everyone because I think they are essential for recovery. And obviously, the first thing I do with everyone is make sure that they know how to identify when this problem comes up, like what their triggers are, what they're thinking, what that craving feels like. And then I'm teaching them how to be okay feeling a craving without reacting to it, so that we can just have cravings without go off and eat. And that will it's like the vehicle that will allow you to rewire the brain to a different response so that you can later do it automatically. So it's not something that you need to consciously do for life. So that's kind of the first thing I do with all my clients. The second one is that we're always looking at what's your deeper reason behind it. Because if your reason is, I want to lose weight, it's not very motivating. And if you manage to use it as a motivation, then as soon as you lost the weight, you're like, now I'm going to go back and eat whatever I ate. So it's never really going to work. And most people don't even get there because it's not that important to them to lose weight. So we just look at what is it that you really are looking for, because it's never, ever the weight loss. It's maybe how you're feeling when you're losing weight or what you make that mean, and just feeling like you are living in a foreign body that isn't yours. It's just like this fat, flabby body that isn't yours. And you're like, this isn't really me. I just want to get to my real body. And why is that important? Yeah, because I want to be me. It's usually something around either making a meaningful life or being your authentic self or something like that. And then I have something I call an exception challenge, where they actually do go and eat something that they think they're addicted to. And that just serves several different purposes. We do it with awareness. And that just brings, you would realize when you're doing it that this food, first of all, is not as good as I thought it was. It's your brain has been lying to you the whole time, because it feels good to eat it because of the dopamine release that is happening when you're eating. But the actual taste of the food isn't as good as you have been told or that you believed before. And then it will show you that you're actually able to control how much you're eating, when you're stopping, and that you don't have to go on a binge just because you did it. Because most people, they want to be abstinent because they're scared of what is happening if they're not. So it will just show you that you have the choice. You can be abstinent or you can choose not to. Both are possible. And depending on the person, there's always an amount of mindset coaching, which can take a little bit of time for some people. But you need to be comfortable with your choice. So if there are a lot of insecurities around other people or eating socially or whatever, we need to work that through as well.
Okay, this kind of brings us to the next question. So you kind of touched on it with like the dopamine response. And it's what it is what role does nutrition play in overcoming carb addiction?
That's a good question. So I think if you are like eating a low inflammation diet, your brain is going to function better. Not saying that any addiction will go away, but it's helping. I think it will help anyone to just lower the general inflammation, because when you are generally inflamed, you will have a degree of brain inflammation as well, and you will be a lot more reactive to everything and just unsettled, which makes it a lot harder. That's why I'm working with people who are low carb in some form, because I find that it really helps. And if we remove most of the carbs out of the diet, then you're not going to have the physiological cravings that come from blood sugar swings, etc. So we're just removing all of the noise, and then we get to the part that is a problem for my clients, which is almost always emotional in some way. And the emotional eating, no matter how well nourished you are, is still going to be there. It's like, it has absolutely nothing to do with your physiology. It's a psychological thing, which may come from trauma or something else. But I think there's probably a degree of trauma at the root of it for everyone. And that's just something that you need to work through if you want to get free from these cravings and this behavior. Because as long as you have that there and you're trying to fix it with food, the best option you have is to swap the addiction for another addiction. So you might be able to stop eating and then you just spend your life scrolling Facebook instead, or, you know, something else that feels good to take your mind off of your mental pain. Can we call it that? Like, what's the word? Yeah.
Yeah. I've applied something like that before when I mean, of course, it's not necessarily addiction when you're bodybuilding, you're trying to get very lean. But like walking around the supermarket and just walking down all the aisles, deliberately finding a way to keep your mind active. Now, I might not necessarily look at the foods, but I might just walk around the shops themselves. So I might just look at clothes or something. I just find something really, you know, laid back to do, which sometimes I might quite enjoy. That just takes my mind away, takes my time away. I mean, is that something that you'd recommend to people to do?
Not generally. I prefer that people just learn to feel uncomfortable, because if you can feel uncomfortable and not react to it, what's there left? I mean, then you don't have to eat. But I think it can be a useful tool if you're struggling in the beginning. I mean, as I say, I don't teach it generally, but I do give that advice to some people sometimes when it can be helpful. I don't want to recommend it because then everyone would do it, and it's just taking a lot longer to get to where you want to be. So I'm trying to do it the fastest way possible, and then we just have to look at the individual where you're at. But what you were saying is that when you're looking at things and when you might thinking like, yeah, this is a nice piece of whatever, your brain lights up. You do get a bit of dopamine from that. So it's a really good way of maybe starting out to get that dopamine hit and changing the behavior, like looking at the things, but not actually consuming them or buying them or whatever it might be.
I see. Yeah, that's quite. I guess is it fair to say you're taking a different level to it? So you have like an entry level carb addict coming to you. You might try this sort of thing. Then eventually the goal is like food freedom. So you can choose to abstain from these things and not have this almost like fear and despising feeling when you're around it.
Actually, I do the same thing with everyone because most people don't need to put in all of these tactics. It's maybe 1 in 10. So I'm not testing, I'm just throwing them in at the deep end. I'm like, this is what you need to do. You give them a week, then I check in. Okay, how did it go? And then from there, we just start changing things when I know like where the mind's at and what the problem is and how they react to it. I think that's the best way of doing it, because otherwise they will tell me probably, oh yeah, I have this big problem and I'm a super unicorn that nothing has worked and it's so hard for me. And if I buy into that, we'll just like prolong the whole process. So I don't even tell them that this is an option to start with. So maybe I shouldn't have said that.
You set my mind on different paths.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just trying to justify what I've been doing myself and just hoping that you agree, you know.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. And if you're happy to solve the problem that way for now, just do it. Doesn't really matter. It's just that the actual food freedom part, and if people are paying me to get there, I want to get them the results as quickly as possible.
Oh yeah.
So I don't want them to, you know, tag along and just do this for 2 years before they're ready. We're trying to get them there as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I like that. It's I mean, it's kind of different to the way that I coach people, because I'm trying to get people from A to B with their body. With their mind, you're trying to alter their way of thinking, which is the quicker you can get someone to do that, the better. It's a completely different a kind of way of going about things. So yeah, I appreciate your honesty of that sort of answer.
Yeah.
I've got a question now about maybe a little bit about your clients. So do you have any sort of success stories if you look back and think, wow, this person was a complete train wreck, they couldn't do this, and we're eating everything at every given corner. Is there anything, you don't have to give anyone's names, but like, is there anything that sticks out to you think, wow, this person achieved this and this is how they did it?
It's funny because when I first speak to people, I can't even tell like what their journey is going to be like. Sometimes you can tell when someone is really stuck in the past. I'm like, okay, this is going to be work. When they're like, I've always done it, my grandmother did it, and it's just in my genes. And, the belief is so strong that they don't have any control. Then I know that, okay, this is probably going to take a long time. But sometimes I have people coming to me, they're like, yeah, I'm a sugar addict and I'm doing this for such a long time, impossible. And then you have 2 weeks of just like mind drama and they're so disempowered, and then something just clicks. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, when they realize that they actually do have control, it's like they just take control of everything, which is fascinating to me because I could definitely not do that. They're like, yeah, okay, I do have a choice. And then all of a sudden, they are able to stop themselves in every situation and make that choice. So I don't know if that was what you were looking for, but if you want like a stubborn case, you can just go and look at Alex's channel, for example. I've worked with Alex in 2 phases. So we worked and then his dad passed away, so we had to stop, and then he came back. And he made progress both times, but kind of slowly if you compare to the average. And then he took a break, and now he's back and he's applying everything that we were coaching on, all the tools, and he's just really getting there, and he's starting to actually live his life. So if you want to see what struggling is and how to actually bring yourself out of it, then I think he's a really good example of that.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure. It's funny because Alex presents himself and is an intelligent person. It just goes to show that, whether you're intelligent or you're a bit thick, this carb addiction thing can apply to everyone.
Yeah. And it's funny that you say that because I used to judge myself because I'm a very intelligent person. And I'm like, how can someone who is intelligent actually do this to himself? How is it that I can't stop? And I'm like, clearly I must be stupid because there's something here that like must be wrong in my brain. Why is it that I can, whatever I do that requires a degree of intelligence, I'm really good at it. And then why is this so hard? Like, so if you're an intelligent person and you know it and you're addicted to food, don't judge yourself because it has absolutely nothing to do with intelligence. It's maybe more emotional intelligence, if anything, if we want to talk about that you're just not used to processing emotions and you don't like feeling them. And I'm not even now that good at feeling emotions because I guess it's been a protection mechanism as a kid. I grew up in an area where everyone was a bit, tough and you had to kind of take care of you. Yeah. So, I mean, I was never bullied because I was like, oh, fuck off, you idiot. Like, it was like I had this shield, but also there were like no emotions that I could just like disconnect from it. So I think it's something that I just learned over time, and it served me really well then, because even if someone said something to me, it never affected me. I was like, well, I don't care what you think. So it was great, but there's a price to pay for everything, I guess.
Yeah. I'm kind of touching on that point. Maybe about like if people have been bullied or something, or they've got a background or their parental history is a certain way. Do you think there's much benefit in someone trying to, or maybe aiming to improve their social circle? Is there a benefit to having a supportive environment if trying to battle carb addiction?
Yeah, absolutely. Part of, I think a lot of people, like part of it is if we're talking about trauma, for example, it's almost always, not always, but mostly from a fairly young age when we don't really understand the context. So let's say that your mom was shouting at you for making noise because you were happy or whatever. Like then we'd be like, okay, that's dangerous. I shouldn't be expressing my happy emotions. And we just kind of suppress ourselves. And it's something that we learn very quickly. And then we just go out in the world when we grow up and we keep doing that. And we think, like, we don't think, subconsciously we think that that's how we need to behave and that's a good way of being. But at the same time, since we are suppressed, we don't get to sort of express our emotions, feel our emotions, or whatever. And I forget what your question was. I just started talking about that. Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, fair enough. It's about having a supportive environment. Like if someone's in a position where, you know, they don't have many friends, they're isolated, would you suggest to them, okay, go out, meet some new people, you know, get some friendship groups, go to a club or something?
Yeah. So now I know why I was saying this. So the thing is that if you can't connect with other people because you have this protective shield around you, or you don't even know how to express your emotions, it's going to be really hard for you to connect with other people. You might be around other people and it might help, but most likely you're going to feel lonely anyway because you feel like no one understands me, it's not safe to open up or whatever. So even if in theory, I think that community, connecting with other people, I think that's really important, but you also need this part where you can connect with other people. And if you connect with other people that do understand you, even if you're not quite there emotionally, if you have other people around you that may be doing the same thing, you have the same interests, they are in the same boat as you, that can be really helpful as long as the focus is on growth and development and not just self-pity, because that can, I've seen that with my clients, I do allow them to kind of hook up and get, you know, accountability partners, etc. And it came to my attention once that one woman was saying like, yeah, I was doing fine. And then this other person that I was talking to, they talk every day apparently. Oh, she was struggling. And then it was like, her brain was like, oh, if she's struggling, then I'm going to struggle as well. It's fine for me to do it. That's not useful. It needs to be in an environment where people actually want to achieve the same thing and want to continue working towards that. So I think you need to be a little bit careful with who you are around if you're trying to get out of an addiction. Because if it's just your best friend and they're sitting there and eating cake every day, it's probably not going to be very helpful at all, even if you feel better when you have some company.
Yeah, I think the same. As much as it's easy for me to come in here and say, you know, yeah, just speak to a friend, you know, you have to make sure you have almost the right friend. It's like, I mean, without sounding like a user, but you almost have the right tool for the right job.
Yeah.
You have someone that you like a shoulder to cry on. You have someone that's a bit more upbeat, that'll bring you up. I think everyone between us, we all have our different skill sets. A lot of my clients are people that check in, give me the information I want. I tell them what to do. They do it. They check in again. Then it's like just a continuous cycle. So it's very different to what you do. Yours is a much more intimate process, which makes sense when you're trying to battle something like carb addiction.
Yeah, I think something that we would call, I don't know if you're familiar with like the model, but what the mindset behind something determines how you're feeling about it, and it determines what actions you're going to take. So you kind of working with the actions that people are going to take. So it's like an action-based coaching, whereas I'm trying to work on the thoughts and the psychology behind it to make that action happen, or the right action for that person. So it's just a different way of coaching. Yeah,
I completely understand. Like I like to think of myself as someone like it's the bottom of the funnel in like our nutrition space online. So I'm not getting people to, you know, go on a high carb diet and come straight to me. There's cycles you go through. So you can either do it yourself, go to like maybe a carnivore, keto, low carb diet. Then some people might struggle, so they'll go to you.
Yeah.
Then when they get to you, they might readjust their goals, redefine what they want to achieve. If for some reason they want to build muscle, lose fat, they might then come to me. They might also come to you because you're also experiencing it. So I'm glad we can collaborate on this sort of thing.
Yeah. I'll send them to you.
Yeah, I think we all have different skill sets. So people that watch my channel will know that I'll have specific people on for certain reasons because I appreciate what they do and I think they're good at what they present. So brilliant. Now I've got another question as well about relapses.
Yeah.
In the case of Alex, might be a good example. So how would you get those individual clients to get back on track? And maybe what are some common reasons for them to get in that sort of state in the first place?
I would say old brain programming. Like you've done it so many times that not doing it is so uncomfortable that we're just like, okay, well, just one more time. Like I can't stand it. I'm just going to do it today. And I think that's part of the journey. I haven't seen anyone so far not have a single relapse, if you want to call it a relapse. Sometimes I'm using the term lightly. Maybe we should call it a mini fail or whatever, but sometimes it's just like, yeah, I ate a cupcake and then I was back on track. I don't think that is a huge problem, but it's brilliant because we can use that and learn from it. And I think like in the past, you've been doing this over and over again, but you never paid attention to why you're doing it or what's gone wrong. So we need to do it a few more times for the brain to really be able to analyze, okay, what is happening here? What went wrong? How can I do it differently? And then most of the time we never do the same mistake again. We just make a different one. And that's fine. Then we can learn from that as well. So I think it's just part of the learning process. And I know it's not what people want to hear. I know it's not what people want to do because it feels like, oh my God, now I've set myself back. But I don't think you have. It's just like, okay, well, you did something that you really didn't want to do for a day or maybe a week. But the knowledge that you get from this and the realization when you do it with awareness and like the imprinting in your brain, how painful it was to do it, is going to be completely different than it's been in the past when you just not been wanting to think about it at all. It's like, oh, yeah, let's forget about those last 3 years and now I'm going to restart this week. Like that, it's completely different. So I don't want to encourage relapses, obviously, but I want to say it's fine. It's part of what you need to do to actually get to your goal.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, in my experience, just adding to that, I've had CBT 3 times. The first 2 times were ineffective. They're ineffective in the sense that they didn't, get rid of or put my depression and anxiety into remission. But it doesn't mean I didn't gain valuable tools from that. So people that are undertaking your courses the first time, yeah, you're going to gain most of the benefit in terms of the information based from that. But like you said, the application of it, the first, second, third time, eventually someone will get there if they apply themselves. So I do appreciate what you do. Now, if anyone wants to find out more information about you, or perhaps any additional resources, references that you might have, what would you recommend?
Yeah. The best way to find me is probably going on my YouTube channel because all my videos has a link underneath where if you click on that link, it's like a link tree. So you just get access to, you can join the Facebook group from there. You can find my Instagram. You can find all of the things. Or if, you want to send me an email at pim@pimjansson.com and they can find me there.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for your time. It's been very useful. I've learned a thing or two. So yeah, like I said earlier a few times, I do appreciate what you do and I hope people do sign up to what you offer in terms of your different services. So thank you very much.